A week from today, we will begin a new series that we've entitled Finding Your True Identity. Your identity is determined by who you belong to, not by anything that's happened to you or any label that anyone's put on you. Your identity is determined by who you belong to. So don't miss this. It's going to be a great series. Starts next Sunday, Finding Your True Identity. It's a topic that we talk around in many, many ways. But as a group of us have discussed and kind of beat to death at times, we decided that this was something we needed to tackle on a Sunday morning in a series of messages in terms of identifying our identity. So I hope you'll join us for that series. This morning, we're going to talk some of identity, but we're going to go at it from a different angle, and that is from a personal story, a personal testimony. So we heard from Jenny Kerr, short for Virginia Kerr, a few minutes ago. Now we're going to hear from Jenny Stogdill, and we did that to confuse you, and especially me. So Jenny, come on up here and join me if you would. So start out by letting us know some of what your faith journey has been. What has brought you to the place where you're worshiping at Northgate and you've become a member of this church?
My kids have played a big role in that. Like Jace specifically has always tried to get us to go to church when we miss church. He's kind of sad about it, and just watching them grow in faith has helped mine. And as long as I can remember, I've been in church as a kid.
Mm-hmm. I remember you sharing that when you shared your faith story with me, that the knowledge of Jesus has been with you always, ever since you can remember. But you've also made some strategic decisions to follow him, and that's part of your story. So you mentioned Jace. He's one of three. So tell us about your family and Chuck. And
I have 3 kids, Jace, Addison, and Avery. They're 9, 8, and 7. Me and Chuck has been married for almost 13 years. And yesterday was we were together 16 years altogether. So I have also 4 brothers, and my mom's here too.
Your mom is here. Great. I'm glad that she could be here for this today. So, what made you even begin to think about doing what you did this last October? So if you don't know this about Jenny, is in October she donated a kidney. And she donated a kidney to a stranger at that point, no longer a stranger, but a stranger at that point. What made you even to begin consider this?
So before I started everything, I didn't really think about donating an organ before. And me and Mom were sitting at Subway here in Ottumwa, and I saw Dana's post, his wife's post, that they were looking for a live donor. And so I read the post, and then after that I started thinking, like, maybe looking into the process, and I talked to Chuck about it. He was okay with it, so then just kind of thought about it for a little bit longer.
We didn't really talk about this in preparation for today, but this is part of your story. Your dad kind of factors into this.
Dad has some issues with his kidneys, and that I know of, everything is okay right now. But so he was a little worried about just having one kidney. I mean, he needs both of his. right now.
Even though your family was supportive, they did have questions about all this.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. And that was a challenge for you to think through and pray through and talk through.
It was, definitely. And then I second guessed everything. Like, is this the right thing to do? Mom guilt was a big part of it because, like, there was 6 weeks I couldn't do anything. So, like, not spending time with the kids other than watching TV. And that was hard.
Yeah. And they prepared you for all that. You knew all that going in. It wasn't a surprise.
Right.
Right. So what propelled you to the decision to say, I am going to do this?
I just felt that it was something that God was leading me to do and felt strongly about it. And that as each step, like, it got, blood tests came back normal, and like I finally got approved and it was a match, and that was like confirmation that this was the right thing to do.
Yeah, and I mean, I will commend you because you talked to a lot of people in that process. You didn't make that decision in isolation. You didn't decide that somehow God has said to me to do this, so I'm going to do it. You tested that amongst a pretty wide circle of people that you discussed all. I mean, you talked to me. I know you talked to Liz. There are other people in this fellowship that you talked with, but even people outside of Northgate that you discussed all this with. So tell us about this process of testing and seeing if you're a match and all that you went through with that.
So first, I filled out the paperwork online for Unity Methodist up in Des Moines. And then one of the coordinators called me and went through some more questions about health and family history. And then after that, I had to go have a huge panel of blood tests done just to make sure everything was okay. And then after that, I came back. Then I had to do more blood tests, lots of blood tests, CT scan, stress test, just different ones to make sure that my kidneys were working well. And then more blood tests.
Lots of sticks.
Yes.
Yeah. So once you were approved, then did you get on a schedule? What happened with the process once you were approved?
So after I found out it was a match, we talked about like when would work for us as far as Chuck's work goes and him staying home. So October 3rd worked out really good for that, and he was able to stay home for 2 weeks. So then I had to go back up to Des Moines for just some routine stuff the weekend before. And then we went up really early, like at 6, and got things started.
Because some of us know the story, it didn't all go as smooth as it could have. But it didn't go as badly as it might have.
Right.
So clue us in on all that.
So after surgery, they said everything went okay. And I don't remember a lot of it, but I do remember they came back in like the day after and said they wanted to do surgery again because I had internal bleeding. And so that they said it would only be like an in and out type thing. It took 7 hours, I think, to stop all the bleeding. And then I was supposed to be in the hospital for 2 to 3 days and ended up staying for a week.
Yeah. And we were praying for you in that process because, well, it, like I said, it didn't go as easily as it could have, but it wasn't as bad as it might have been.
Definitely.
You are only the second person that I've ever known that donated a kidney, but the other person that donated a kidney had complications too. It's kind of bizarre that the person donating the kidney almost has more potential for those complications than the recipient. And that's just part of the process. You were there a week,
Yes.
and then you came home, and what, Chuck had another week off work at
Yes.
that point?
Yes. Lots of help and trying to be patient. Those 6 weeks was rough.
I don't know how many of you know this, but the day after Jenny got out of the hospital, she showed up here at church. And I think you could have blown me over in the Commons when I saw her. You weren't really walking, you were carefully stepping when you came in because you were sore, and that was pretty obvious. But what a testimony to God's power in your life that you were able to come and be a part of church that Sunday. So what's recovery been like?
The 6 weeks, like I said, was hard to be patient and not lift over 10 pounds. It was really hard. But other than that, after the 6 weeks, it's been pretty good. Starting to get back into a normal routine, and able to do pretty much everything now. Walking helped, so I got to get outside instead of just sitting in the house the entire time, and just being able to get up and move.
Anything else you want to tell us about recovery? I mean, like, have you had a slew of extra checkup appointments up in Des Moines, or what has that part been like?
So I had an appointment a week after, or 2 weeks after, and then a month after. And then I go back for a 6-month checkup, and a year and 2 years.
Okay.
And just annual blood tests at my doctor's office.
More blood. They're going to take more of your blood.
Yep.
There must be people up there that you really think are vampires. Okay. So tell us about your recipient. And I will tell you, folks, we invited him to come today, but he had some complications that I think Jenny's going to share with us that meant that he couldn't be here. But tell us about the recipient.
His name is Sean Armstrong. He's the chief police in Bloomfield. And he couldn't come today because he's having a lot of swelling, pain in his hands and feet. His wife, Dana, messaged me yesterday when I asked how he was doing, and she said the doctors figured out what was going on, and he's starting to get back to a good not so much pain and swelling. They're hoping to move to Bloomfield Hospital soon.
Okay. Now, he hasn't been hospitalized this whole time, though. He just went in the hospital last week.
I think so.
Yeah. And his kidney, the kidney that you donated, is actually functioning well. It's just all the other stuff because his health was so run down in all the months, literally years that led up to him needing a kidney.
Yes.
Right.
Yep. She told me that his kidney's doing really good.
Good. And that must be encouraging to you.
It is.
Yeah. Yeah. So at some point, he will come, and we'll introduce him when he is able to come, because they would like to have been here this morning to be a part of this today. So we want to include them. What lessons would you like your kids to learn from this?
To have trust in God, no matter what the situation is, that He will take care of everything.
Yeah.
Have faith. And to always stop and pray. Any doubts or fears. Because you can always talk to God about everything.
I pray and I hope that one of the things your kids take away from this, and that everybody who's gathered here in person or who's watching us online can take away from this, is I pray that one of the lessons of this is how important it is for us to be selfless. I don't know, except for laying down your life for somebody else, I don't know what comes closest to illustrating selflessness than donating a kidney to somebody. And because you went through a lot to do this, and I mean, for the next 2 years, they're going to watch you really carefully because of what you've been through. And that's really significant in your life and for your family. And yes, trusting God and having faith in God and being selfless toward others and loving other people, those are really hard things. I mean, Jesus says to us in Mark 12, that we're to love our neighbors like we love ourselves. And then in John 15, Jesus says, greater love has no one than to lay one's life down for one's friends. That's really important for all of us to hear and remember and really be motivated by. How has this impacted your faith journey? How has this impacted your relationship with Jesus?
So I have a lot of anxiety all the time. And I've learned to just let go and let God take care of it. I'm still working on growing my faith and praying. Just giving it all to Him and letting it go, especially things that I can't control. Like the second surgery, that was something that nobody could control.
I mean, did you catch what she just said? That, her faith journey is impacted because she wants her faith in God and her trust in God to grow. And yet I'm sitting here next to somebody that I see has gigantic faith and trust in God. And so I just commend you on that. Yes, all of us need to grow in our faith and trust of God, but man, what an example you have provided for us in trusting God and having faith in God in the middle of all this. So one of the things that Jenny has done in the last few weeks, really, I guess back the first part of December, is she has applied for a passport, and she's going to go on our Paraguay missions team. Why?
So it's one thing I feel that God, another thing I feel that God is leading me to do.
That's going to stretch your faith and trust in God even more. Yeah. I mean, Jenny Kerr will agree with me on that. It is a brutal plane ride down there. It's just brutal. It's like 20 plus hours of travel to get from here to there. And that is amazing that you're going to get to be a part of that. I mean, one of the things that you're doing in even planning this trip is trusting God for the finances.
Yes.
Yeah. So we have received, as a church, we've received a gift for our Paraguay team. And this morning, I want you to know, and I want everyone here to know, that $1,000 of that has been designated for you. We want you to know how much we love you and how much we admire what you have done and how well it illustrates to all of us what being selfless before God looks like. So, this is what Paul writes to us. And this is a very, very familiar passage to most of you. Most of you have heard this read and shared in multiple situations. Many of you even had this read in your own wedding ceremony. But this is what Paul writes. He says, "If I speak in the tongues of men or of angels, but do not have love, I'm only a resounding gong or a clanging cymbal. And if I have the gift of prophecy and can fathom all mysteries and all knowledge, and if I have a faith that can literally move mountains but do not have love, I am nothing. If I give up all I possess to the poor and give over my body to hardship, like donating a kidney, but I don't have love, I gain nothing. Love is patient. Love is kind. It does not envy. It does not boast. It is not proud. It does not dishonor others, and it is not self-seeking. Love is not easily angered, and it keeps no record of wrongs. Love does not delight in evil, but rejoices with the truth. It always protects, always trusts, always hopes, and always perseveres. Love never fails. But where there are prophecies, they will cease, and where there are tongues, they will be stilled. Where there is knowledge, it will pass away. For we know in part, and we prophesy in part, but when completeness comes, what it is in part disappears. When I was a child, I talked like a child. I thought like a child. I reasoned like a child. But when I grew up, I put the ways of childhood behind me. Now, I see only a reflection as in a mirror, but one day, we shall see him face to face. Now I know in part, but then I shall know fully, even as I am fully known. So these three gifts remain: faith, hope, and love, but the greatest of these is love. You've illustrated that for us. You have shared that with us. But here is one of the most important things for all of us to walk away with today. Donating a kidney does not define you. Being a mom does not define you. Being a wife does not define you. Following Jesus is what defines you. And that's what motivates us and leads us. That's what gives you the strength to overcome all the anxiety that you must have experienced leading up to October 3rd. That's the power of Christ at work in your life. That's the power of Christ at work in the life of your family. That's the power of God at work in this household of faith. And that's what we hold up. That's what we want to communicate to this community and to the world, to our families, our friends, and our coworkers, that trusting God, having faith in God, walking with Jesus is worth every second and everything it takes. Thank you so much. Can you give her a round of applause? Thank you so much, everybody, for joining us today. I hope you have a great week. And make sure you come back next week as we start our new series, Finding Your True Identity.